Welcome back to the second episode of Justrillmedia's review of the House of the Dragon. Now, getting right into things, this episode takes place or starts off with the black dude. Well, let me get his name right. Corlys Valerian. He's heated, he comes in, someone's pillaged his ships and his islands. So he comes in, to a council meeting, and he's, really overstepping his boundaries. But, King Viserys, like we already established in the last episode, he's very passive. He doesn't really have that demeanor of a king to where you'll come in and, be afraid to step out of bounds with him. So he comes in and he kind of steps around it that they should actually go to war behind this. And, it's kind of put at ease because the king's council members, they actually, make him aware of, who he's speaking to and that he should actually calm down and, think things over a little bit. And so, they kind of, cooler heads prevail and the tension subsides. And in the next scene, him and his wife, of course, who is the princess, or the king that never was, as they like to refer to her as. Of course, it looks as if they immediately start scheming and plotting. This whole episode is full of scheming and plotting, if you ask me. And it looks as if Viserys is, he's no fool, but he's not as fast-witted as he needs to be to maintain this position. So it looks like things are about to get real for him. But the black dude, and let me stop calling him black dude, Corlys Viserys, he comes back in the next scene and, with his wife, and he lets him know that it was never his intention and, to disrespect him or anything like that. But then he slides him a proposition and he says, with everything in utter chaos right now, they appear to be weak, and he feels that the enemy is watching them. And he also, makes a pretty good analogy as far as there's only two ways to attack a storm. That's either to go into it or to go around it, but never wait for it to come. And I actually like that. That was a real analogy. But he then slides a proposition to the king and says they should unite their houses to show that the two, most powerful names in the kingdom are in fact united, and it'll show unity and order to the kingdom. And so he proposes that he marries his daughter, who's I think only 12 years old. My God! But that's kind of real. That's the way things were done, in those particular times. Well, in real life, during the time period in which they're proclaiming that this takes place in. That's more so how things were done, as far as with arranged marriages and things to this effect. And so, he goes on a walk with her. He wants to do this because everyone is advising him that this is the wise thing to do. And of course, that would make Corlys and the princess very happy, and that would, kind of put everything at ease and kind of unite and just basically strengthen the kingdom. And so on all fronts, this is a wise move to do, but his heart just isn't in it, to marry a 12-year-old. And so, as they're walking, she tells him that my mother says I won't have to bear you any children until I'm 14. You can just tell that everything is very scripted and that her father has coached her along the way in order to do these things. Now, on the flip side of this, and this is actually kind of good on the show's part, they actually have kind of it playing out on the opposite end, because he has a different young lady, Alicent Hightower, who is the daughter of the Hand of the King, or Sir Otto, and she's working her move on the king very well, and she's head and shoulders above everyone else because she's really just a woman. Like, when I think about a real, just a feminine woman, man, she really that. And even though she ain't got no booty or nothing down, she cute now. Hey, she's a cute Caucasian woman for sure, And so she's working her move. She's very attentive to him. She's that soft voice that he needs to hear. She's just kind of kicking it with him. and she's actually attentive to what, like, his pain and what he's actually what he's going through. He actually broke like one of the little chess pieces like that on the board when they kind of are portraying the city and whatnot. He dropped it and broke it. She went to the Masons and got it fixed for him. I'm like, dang, if this ain't what a woman do, like, this how you win a man's heart. So I'm glad that they showed this particular scene, in this in the show. That was definitely a great scene for me. I'm like, dang, she got me liking her. But now the whole time, what I failed to mention is that she is the best friend of Vanera. She's the best friend of Vanera, and so with that, nobody kind of. Well, before I get into that, she's counseling the king. Not even counseling, but she's listening to him, and that's what he really needs at this particular time. And he's disarmed. He's completely disarmed from her. You can tell he has his guard up with everyone else, and he kind of knows that they have an angle. But with her, he's very comfortable with her, and she does a great job of making him feel comfortable. So shouts out to her on that. Now, when she's praying with Vanera, she's also a great friend to her, but you can tell, and I thought I was tripping. Like, you could see her nails, like, where she just, like, she's biting on them all the time. Like, I'm like, what's wrong with this girl? Like, she nervous or something, like, she just really just biting her nails and stuff. And I'm like, dang, what in the world is going on? So I thought I was tripping at first. Like, dang, you know what? Because, I'm a nail person. I love, beautiful nails and stuff. So when I see her, I'm like, dang, she pretty and got her hair done and all this, that, and the third. And your hands looking like this, like, what the world? You feel me? So I thought it was by mistake at first, but we'll continue with that in momentarily. Now, in the next scene, Damon comes in and steals a dragon egg and challenges the king to come to his wedding. He alerts the king that he's getting married again. He already has a wife, but he's getting married again. And at this point, the king is feeling tried. He knows everyone is kind of looking at him like he's weak, and so King Viserys, and so he's actually like, well, Damon, I'm finna go see. He's hot, so he's like, man, I'm gonna go see Damon myself, and I get the egg back. And so he prepared to do whatever. So he in his feelings a little bit, and he ready to go show his strength as a king. But the hand of the king actually steps up, or Sir Hightower steps in and say, no, that's too risky. We're not finna, we can't lose the king, on some fugazi stuff. So, and of course, I'm paraphrasing. So he offers to go in his stead. And so in the next scene, we see as he's about to head off, we see that he's actually coaching his daughter, which is Alicent Hightower, who the king really is, and she's attractive. Now again, she's attractive, as and just she's got that soft feminine way about herself that it's easy for a man to love that. And so he's actually coaching her. He's telling her, like, make sure you go see the king tonight, And so somebody actually comes in. He like, dang. So he pick her hands up. He like, damn, why are you mutilating yourself? Like, what are you doing? And so now I see that the show is actually placing emphasis on this. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I wasn't tripping. I'm still trying to figure out what this means, because it's like probably she's not as innocent as she's letting on to be, so they probably setting her up for a whammy, what I'm saying, maybe a double whammy, who knows. But at this point, she goes off, or the hand of the king goes off, and he actually goes to meet Damon, and this is a very tense standoff. Damon comes, and he got his king's guard with him that he's taking, and the king, who is a little bit more witty than I gave him credit for, because he oftentimes looking a little passive aggressive in front of King Viserys, but when he was by himself, he actually stood with some power. He was up there roasting Damon, like he was up there roasting him. You feel me? So I had to give him his props for that. And so just as they was about to get into it, Damon's dragon flies over, and so obviously they knew what time that was. They didn't want to go head up with the dragon. But, and if you watch the show, this is so predictable. Like I sensed it was coming. I knew that Princess Vanera was actually gonna fly up with her dragon. I knew that, and so in just as I suspected, she does just that. She soars up. She lands on the bridge, all heroic style, You know, of course, this is a feminist show, so they got her coming in looking like the big hero, and like she can diffuse the situation where men weren't able to come to the common ground. And so she jumps in, or she jumps down, and obviously she has a good rapport with her uncle. And so she goes over there and she, you know, lets him know that, you know, that's her egg, this, that, and the third. She's basically like, you know, all this, I'm the one that's standing in your way, not my father, not anyone else. So if you want, you know, this kingdom, and even the kingdom that you're in now, that belongs to me also. You know, he's like, well, once you become of age, you know, or once your father passes, then it'll belong to you, not now. And so, you know, obviously he has love for his niece, and so he throws her the egg, and he goes on about his business, and the situation is in fact diffused, and the mission was accomplished. She got the egg back without having any bloodshed, and so that was good. Of course, the next scene, you know, it goes back. Obviously, she disobeyed the king because he didn't want her to go, so she went behind his back in order to do this. But of course, he's pleased with the outcome, and so they're sitting down. You know, they're having dinner, and basically, she's letting him know that she's learning the political game, because that's one thing I also failed to mention, because the princess and the king that never was, or the current princess, they actually had a standoff, because you know, obviously she saw her father walking with the 12-year-old, and she like, man, there's some bullshit, you know. She like, there's some bullshit, you know. But you know, so the princess, she kind of hating on her, like the older one, she hating on her, you know what I mean? So she kind of talking to her and like schooling her and letting her know, like, girl, you just kind of like you just kind of, for sure, like, they're not gonna let you run there. They'll burn the kingdom down before they let you run something in here, you know. And so basically just hating on her. And so they go off from there, and basically, like, she starts wising up a little bit. She's knowing that her approach is all wrong. Like, all this, like, she finna come out and domineer things, it's all wrong. And so she has to, if she's going to outsmart and outthink the men, because she sees the plotting and the scheme, and she sees that they can override her, this, that, and the third throughout the course of the show. So she gets a little wiser, and so she goes on from there, and she basically lets her father know that she understands that this is a good move for the kingdom, for him to marry this 12-year-old, or the daughter of Corlys Velaryon. And so from there, in the next scene, the king comes into the council meeting, and he informs everyone that he's made a decision. And of course, the black dude is in there. Velaryon, Corlys Velaryon is in there, and he's expecting that, you know, he's going to give the decision that goes in his favor. But of course, this is not the case, and he announces that he will marry Alicent Hightower, and again, which is Rhaenyra's best friend. So she's dumbfounded by this. She's like, what? So she tight. She didn't even see this coming. Like, dang, you know, she done been crying and confiding in this girl, and you know, just out of nowhere, this is who her father picks to be his wife. So she kind of jumps her in importance and ranking, you know, right there. Corlys Velaryon, aka the black dude, he sees he's been outwitted again. So the hand of Otto Hightower, he looking at him like, you know, he kind of gives him that look like, gotcha, gotcha. You know, you thought you was doing something, but nah. So it's clear that a whole lot of politics are being played right now. Everybody plotting and scheming and trying to wiggle their way into position. However, you know, after this, obviously, Corlys, he's not too fond of this decision that's been made. And so in the next scene, you actually see him talking to someone, and you know, he's letting him know that, you know, basically he's running this game again. He let they one in the same, making him aware of his issues and the problems that he's having, about how he came to the king, and his ships have been pillaged, and, you know, the islands have been pillaged, this, that, and the third. And you know, basically he's coming to somebody who can do something about it. And then the camera turns around, and it's Damon, the king's brother. And so we see that by any means that this, you know, this dude is trying to work his move. And so, you know, he stooped to these depths in order to actually go see Damon and try to get him to double cross the king, or try to get him to act on his stead. And so, but even in this, of course, Damon shows that he does have a bit of integrity about himself. He shows he has a bit of integrity. He says, I'll speak to my brother, when I speak to him. So it's like, I'm not just gonna move for you. I'll speak to my brother and, hash and work things out or whatever. But in this conversation, they actually discuss this guy that we see at the beginning, because that's how it actually comes on, with these crabs everywhere, and like it's like crabs eating the flesh of people and this, that, and the third. But he's actually known as the crab feeder, and so they show a scene and basically introduce the first real villain of the show, I suppose. He's like an ugly little dude, and and so basically he's becoming more and more empowered. So they're basically saying, with them not doing anything, with them being passive, it's allowed the crab feeder to become more and more powerful. And that kind of sets the way for the next episode. And on its closing, it gives a preview of the series. It shows that Viserys actually does have another child. He has another son, and I presume that it'll be by Alicent Hightower, because one thing I noticed is that this show skips around. Like the next episode came a half a year after his wife had passed, so they made mention of that throughout. So they're covering a lot of ground in this particular series from a chronological standpoint. At that point, it shows that they'll be doing some fighting, as far as on the dragons coming through, doing their thing. It kind of puts you in the mind of one, like that famous battle where Jaime almost got killed, had to dive in the water, where the dragon just came through and just tearing everything up. It kind of puts you in the mind of that. So they're kind of trying to use some nostalgia here. They're trying to not reinvent the wheel. They're trying to stick to what works in a lot of episodes that people really kind of were attracted to from the Game of Thrones. They're trying to actually recreate that same feel, and so shout out to them for that. But that is the JustTrill review of episode number 2. Again, it was like a stepping stone episode, if you ask me. Not a whole lot of action, more so you just see the scene kind of being set, a lot of politics being played. This is post the death of his child, and the death of his wife. And so again, this occurred 6 months after all this turmoil takes place, and the king is coping. And so we just basically see everyone is establishing themselves as a character in this particular episode. You kind of begin to see the angles of everyone, and so that is my take on this particular episode. Of course, tap in with me. Let me know what you guys think, man. Like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you think about the season so far as well. You dig? And until next week, everyone be blessed, and talk to you soon. 1.